Is it far-fetched to say that an African leader is collaborating with a foreign country to cause chaos in another country? Sadly, the answer is yes. We have seen it play over and over again in several African countries. The history book is filled with scenarios like this. So, when the authorities of Niger accused the government of Nigeria of collaborating with France to cause chaos and destabilization in Niger, it wasn't truly shocking. After all, the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, is a known CIA agent and has been collaborating with France. But the question is Nigeria truly working with France to cause chaos in Niger? Let's find out. The Niger-Benin oil pipeline is set to become the largest oil pipeline in Africa. It spans nearly 2,000 kilometers and connects the Agadem oil fields in eastern Niger to the Beninese port of Sèmè. Sadly, the Agadem oil fields are a region in Niger that is frequently targeted by terrorists. These armed groups have caused chaos and destabilization in the region. Construction of the oil pipeline began in 2019 and was supposed to be completed in 2022. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and attacks by armed groups have stalled the construction. In June 2024, the FPL, an armed rebel group separate from jihadists, claimed responsibility for a series of attacks targeting a Chinese oil project in the country. According to the FPL, this was a warning to the military government and General Tiani in particular to remove himself from power amongst other demands. The FPL's actions, however, threatened to escalate into a full-scale assault on the oil pipeline project that exports crude to neighboring Benin. The recent attack on the pipeline occurred last week, and according to the reports, the Niger-Benin pipeline was bombed between Lido and Karakara in the Dosso region. It was during a meeting with the chargé d'affaires at the Nigerian embassy in Niger that the Niger Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bakari Sangare, said there are reports alleging Nigeria's security forces were involved in the attack. According to the minister, there are allegations of collaboration between Nigerian security forces and exiled Nigerian dignitaries accused of subversive activities. He also raised the alleged establishment of Nigerian military camps in Gigani and Gidan Kata, near the Niger border. In a statement read on Niger's national television, the foreign minister of Niger said, "Despite efforts to normalize relations, we regret that Nigeria has not given up on serving as a rear base for the destabilization of Niger, with the complicity of some foreign powers and officials of the former regime to whom it offers refuge." So the allegation was not just about the attack on the pipeline, it was also about Nigeria providing asylum for former government officials of Niger who fled the country after the coup. Before we proceed, here is a reminder to like this video, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Now, following these allegations, the authorities in Niger have denied the allegations made by Niger. In a statement issued by the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kimiebi Ebienfa, the federal government denied any involvement with the Lakurawa terrorist group or allegations that its security forces collaborated in the incident. The statement partly read, "The federal government of Nigeria refutes in very strong terms allegations by the Nigerian authorities that the Lakurawa terrorist group, with the help of foreign security forces, including Nigerian security forces, were responsible for the attack on the Niger-Benin oil pipeline on the 13th of December 2024 in Gaya, Dosso region of Niger Republic." It further adds, "The government of Nigeria condoles with the government of Niger over the unfortunate attack on the oil pipeline, but informs that the perpetrators were neither backed nor assisted by Nigerian authorities. The government of Nigeria is strongly committed to the fight against terrorism and will not condone or support the activities of such groups." The federal government also dismissed claims of French military presence in northern Nigeria, allegedly aimed at destabilizing Niger. The authorities in Nigeria highlighted the long-standing cordial relations between Nigeria and France. The statement reiterated that both nations adhered to principles of mutual respect, dignity, and non-interference in internal affairs. Interestingly, another group has also denied the allegations on behalf of the Nigerian authorities. Speaking at a press briefing, the Coalition for Advancement of Peace and Democracy in West Africa strongly condemned the allegations made by the Nigerian authorities, accusing Nigerian security forces of involvement in the recent attack on the Niger-Benin oil pipeline. This was made known by the Secretary General of the coalition, Rahila Umar, who said that the allegations that Nigerian security forces were involved in the attack are not only grossly misleading but pathetic. According to Umar, Nigeria has been at the forefront of fighting terrorism for over a decade, often in collaboration with Nigerian soldiers. She, therefore, reassured the public in Niger and Nigeria that the perpetrators of the pipeline attack were neither backed nor assisted by Nigerian authorities. She also expressed concern over rumors of French military troops in northern Nigeria, stating categorically that these allegations are unfounded, adding that the Nigerian military has a strong history of not accommodating boots on the ground. So here is the big question. Is it possible that Nigeria is collaborating with France to cause destabilization in Niger? Well, while the authorities in Niger have not provided any evidence to back their allegations, the sad truth is that it is very possible. Think about it. The Nigerian president is a known puppet of the West, and we all know that the West does not want the progress of any African country. First of all, when the coup occurred in Niger, the Nigerian president was the first to condemn the coup and even threatened military intervention with the backing of France. When that didn't happen, President Tinubu, who is currently the chairman of the regional bloc, ECOWAS, slapped stringent sanctions on Niger, which led to the death of hundreds of people. But that's not all. In recent times, President Tinubu has drawn Nigeria closer to France at a time when neighboring countries in the Sahel, like Niger, have distanced themselves from France. Recently, President Tinubu paid a visit to France where he met with President Macron. This was the first official visit made by any Nigerian president in the last 2 decades. This is to tell you that historically, Nigeria has not had any business with France, which is not surprising because France did not colonize Nigeria. So, why is Nigeria getting close to France now? This is a very important question. Now, during Tinubu's visit, he signed 2 major deals, one of which was a $300 million pact to develop critical infrastructure, renewable energy, transportation, agriculture, and healthcare in Nigeria. A joint statement from both nations noted, the 2 countries committed to forge a strategic relationship in project implementation and enhance mutual trade and cross-border services by removing fiscal barriers while protecting labor rights. The second deal was an agreement to increase food security and develop Nigeria's solid minerals sector. Both countries have agreed to develop joint projects to promote and diversify the value chain of critical minerals in the solid minerals sector of both countries. Critical minerals such as copper, lithium, nickel, cobalt, and rare earth elements are essential to clean energy technologies. The statement read, a key component of the MOU is the promotion of sustainable mining activities by executing projects and programs that reduce the environmental impact of mining on carbon emissions, water consumption, and climate change. It also includes the establishment of joint extractive and processing projects through co-financing by public and private entities to diversify and secure the supply of critical minerals and decarbonize energy projects critical to the value chain. While some may see this as merely a collaboration between 2 countries, the fact is that something else is going on. Historically, when any Western country is involved in the mining sector, which relates to the exploitation of an African country's resources, there is always a problem. You see, Niger accused Nigeria of establishing a base for foreign forces, particularly France. In response, the Nigerian authorities said that there is no such base in the country. But isn't that the same way the former president of Ghana, Akufo-Addo, said that there was no US base in the country while there actually was a base? Besides this, can you recall in August this year when concerns began to mount about the possibility of the US setting up a base in Nigeria? At the time, the US AFRICOM general insisted that the US military had no plans of setting up a base in Nigeria. Yet, he paid a visit to the Nigerian president. The US military is very secretive about its operations, so for all we know, a plan to establish a base in Nigeria has already been signed into motion. Don't forget that a few months ago, it became known to everyone that the president of Nigeria is an active CIA agent. Think about that. In addition to this, Nigeria and France have signed a deal for France to exploit Nigeria's mining sector. If you take a look back at all the Francophone countries where France has signed such deals, you will observe one thing in common: the existence of a French military base. Aside from projecting the military strength of France in Africa, these bases were set up to protect France's interest in the mining sectors. So, it will not be far-fetched to say that maybe not now, but later on, a French military base will be set up in Nigeria. The thought that an African country would collaborate with an external force to cause chaos in another African country is saddening but common. The West does not want the unity of Africa because it is the one thing that can place the African continent on a path of progress. So, historically, even up till the present times, the West has always used one African country against the other. Think about it. When the Europeans first set foot on the continent and the transatlantic slave trade began, records showed that a lot of African kings and traditional rulers were involved in the trade in exchange for mirrors and guns. The colonial period was no different. Of course, by this time, Europe had already taken over the continent, but the fact is they were able to do so because they had help from Africans who helped them enforce their rules and ideologies. What about the post-colonial period? The situation was even worse. African leaders and those in power gladly implemented and enforced the interests of the West in exchange for power and wealth, not regarding the state of the people. And today, the situation is the same. In June 2024, Burkina Faso's Captain Traoré made a similar allegation against its African neighbors, Côte d'Ivoire and Benin, that they are working with France to destabilize Burkina Faso's economy and security. But what does Traoré mean by economic destabilization? According to Traoré, Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso are blocking goods at their ports that are headed for Burkina Faso. This is very serious because Burkina Faso is a landlocked country, meaning it is completely surrounded by land and has no direct access to the sea. Now imagine that essential goods like food and medicine are coming from its neighbors, Côte d'Ivoire and Benin, and these countries are preventing goods from reaching Burkina Faso. The first question is, why? According to Traoré, the blockade, orchestrated by the governments of Benin and Côte d'Ivoire, is part of a grander plan to collapse Burkina Faso's economy. And guess what? The reason is that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have withdrawn from the West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS. The second question here is, how can countries that preach African unity deliberately orchestrate the economic decline of other countries? How can Africa be united? Do you now understand why we say that Africa may be its own problem? It's not just that. Recall that Captain Traoré harshly criticized the neighboring African countries, Côte d'Ivoire and Benin, for collaborating with France to destabilize Burkina Faso's economy and security. So what does he mean by destabilizing security policies? After Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger severed diplomatic relations with France and expelled French troops from their countries, sources have revealed that France wants to reduce its military presence in West and Central Africa to around 600. This is in line with President Emmanuel Macron's plan to limit French military activity in the region. However, Burkina Faso's President Traoré's recent speech says something different. In a press conference, President Traoré delivered a powerful speech about his plans as head of state for the next 5 years, a new protectionist policy on natural resources, scathing revelations about neighboring Benin and Côte d'Ivoire, and how the two countries are working together with France to destabilize Burkina Faso. In a speech at the sports stadium in Ouagadougou, President Traoré accused imperialist France of trying to plunder and destabilize Burkina Faso and other West African countries. He said France had failed in the fight against terrorism and had instead turned to efforts to destabilize Burkina Faso by withdrawing from the country. Specifically, he said there was evidence of the destabilization of Burkina Faso, orchestrated by France and supported by Benin and Côte d'Ivoire. He said, "We have nothing against the Ivorian people, but we have something against the person who governs Côte d'Ivoire. We say this again and again. In fact, there is an operations center in Abidjan aimed at destabilizing our country." Traoré further expressed concern about the policies of politicians in Benin and Côte d'Ivoire, highlighting in particular the presence of 2 French bases in Benin that target Burkina Faso. "Nobody will come to us and say that there are no French bases in Benin that are aimed at us. We have the evidence," Traoré said. According to Traoré, these 2 French bases are being used to train terrorists in Benin, with the aim of destabilizing Burkina Faso. He added that Burkina Faso has concrete evidence of the presence of French bases, such as laid railway tracks and equipped soldiers. He also said there were audio recordings of French operatives in Benin participating in terrorist operations. "We will present the physical evidence," he said. "If these allegations are true, they have some implications. It could be a plot to turn the Burkina Faso people who support Traoré against him. But what do Côte d'Ivoire and Benin have to say on the matter? In a press release published on social media, the Benin government spokesman immediately rejected Captain Traoré's accusations, calling them abhorrent disinformation that incites public discontent and threatens the peaceful coexistence of our people. The spokesman stressed that attackers from neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger were also involved in the majority of the failed attacks in Benin. It should be noted, however, that President Traoré is not the only one who has accused the President of the Republic of Benin of having a French base near the border with Niger. Nigerian officials have also accused Benin of having a French military base near the border. However, Benin's President Talon has strongly denied the existence of a military base housing French troops near the border with Niger. President Talon even invited the Nigerian government to visit Benin and prove that there was in fact a French military base there. The Niger government did not accept the offer, and it seemed like it would be just a rebuke until photos of President Talon entertaining former French General François Lecointre started circulating on the internet. Some of you may recognize this name. It was this man who made headlines in April this year when he said he supported the recolonization of Africa. For those who have not heard the news, it is shocking, but he said so in a live interview, and he was not even diplomatic about it. According to him, Europe must take its known destiny into its own hands. But guess what? Apparently Africa and the Mediterranean are the destiny of Europe. He added that Europe will have to come back to the continent in 10 or 20 years and recolonize it. To generate sympathy, he said this is necessary because Africans are not self-governing, and African peoples suffer under corrupt and incompetent leaders. Therefore, the fact that an African leader still associates with such a person says a lot about that African leader and proves our point that Africa is its own problem. How can any African leader who considers himself a true Pan-African sign a pact with a person with such an attitude? What's interesting is that this is not the first time Captain Traoré has accused Côte d'Ivoire of harboring instability factors. As you may recall, relations between Burkina Faso and Côte d'Ivoire have been tense recently. In one of his last interviews with state television station RTB, President Traoré expressed concern about the tensions in relations with neighboring countries, especially Côte d'Ivoire. He accused Côte d'Ivoire of protecting elements critical of the regime and failing to counter the terrorist threat that spreads beyond the Ivorian border. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, in his April 26th broadcast, stressed the need for efforts to achieve better understanding with most neighboring countries but criticized Côte d'Ivoire, claiming it is the opponent of cooperation. He explained, "We need to return to a better attitude. All the destabilizing factors in Burkina Faso are there, and Ivorian officers are speaking ill of Burkina Faso. There are problems that need to be dealt with honestly, without using deception," he said, adding, "At some point you have to stop hypocrisy and tell the truth. There is a problem with the authorities in this country. African countries need to do better. Instead of working with external forces, African countries ought to work with each other to promote African unity." What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment, and share.